And speaking of struggles, let me ask you something. Have you heard about the boiling frog syndrome? It comes from a fable, and this is what it says. You put a frog into a pot of boiling water, and the frog jumps right out. But if you put it in a pot of nice tepid water, then gradually turn on the heat, the frog gets complacent and it boils to death because it doesn't feel the difference until it's too late. This story is an urban myth, and a morbid one at that. But I bring it up tonight because it reminds me of a real-world problem: climate change. Our world is in hot water, massive floods, extreme ocean temperatures, record heat, forest fires burning out of control, pluming smoke. A decade ago, any one of these events would have been an aberration. But now they're all happening, and happening simultaneously. There is a new climate disaster every day, and as depressing as it is, this is our new normal. Don't believe me? Well, brace yourselves for some truth bombs. If you're in Europe, things are really heating up. Hot weather alerts have been issued for over a dozen cities. This week, the hottest ever temperature is expected. If you're in the US, you and about 63 million others will face dangerous levels of heat. About 113 million people, that's a third of Americans, are currently under heat advisory. Specifically, if you're in California, it's going to get really bad. The Death Valley here is one of the hottest places in the world. It's nearing the hottest temperatures ever recorded on Earth. If you're in Canada, wildfires are ravaging the land. About 24 million acres have already burned. Smoke has enveloped many parts of the country. This may become the worst ever wildfire season. And stay with me because this is not all. Let's take you to Asia. Japan has issued heat stroke alerts affecting tens of millions of people. Many parts of the country are witnessing near record high temperatures. Meanwhile, other areas have been pummeled by torrential rain. Two extreme weather events in one country. If you're in India, you're probably braving floods and landslides caused by climate change-induced monsoon. And in South Korea, floods have killed at least 40 people. Meanwhile, if you live in China, a severe tropical storm is expected as a typhoon is set to make landfall. Overwhelmed? I get it. You're not alone. But my intention is not to flood you with climatic nerves, nor am I bringing you a weather report. My one and only point is quite simple. No matter where you are, which part of the world, climate alarm bells are ringing, and it's time to wake up and hear them. Because this boiling pot is only getting hotter. And with each passing day, we have a bigger price to pay. I'm talking about the cost of climate change. By 2050, it will have cost the world economy $23 trillion. Over the next 5 decades, this amount will increase to $178 trillion, and some nations will be paying a heavier price than others. Our next report tells you more.
A decade ago, this may have been just another balmy day. Today, it's a deadly heat wave. This could once have been a typical summer storm. Today, it's the cause of a fatal flood. This is the result of human-caused climate change. It's making disasters worse than ever before. We finally understand the risks this poses, how it is testing survival. But we are only now coming to terms with its economic effects. We finally understand how a warmer planet could mean a big hit to GDP. Where do the costs come from? Hotter temperatures cause crop yields to decrease. Floods destroy infrastructure like roads, which must be rebuilt. Old power grids are unable to withstand extreme climate, so new ones will have to be built, costing hundreds of millions of dollars. These are only a few examples. Climate change poses great economic issues. And by 2050, it could shave off about 14% of global economic output. That's a loss of about $23 trillion by 2050. As climate change worsens, so will the economic costs. Within 5 decades, this amount will increase to $178 trillion. But remember, these numbers are world totals. You see, climate change does not treat everyone as equal. By 2050, the US could lose 7% of its potential economic output. Canada, Britain, France could lose 6% to 10%. These are wealthy Western nations. For poorer nations, the consequences will be worse. They will face warmer temperatures, but will have lesser ability to adapt their infrastructure. Their climate response will suffer, so their economies will take a bigger hit. Malaysia, the Philippines and Thailand could lose 20% of their estimated wealth. The economy of India could be 35% smaller, and Indonesia's economy could be 40% smaller. Big economic losses. But don't be mistaken, they're not reserved for the future. Climate costs are already shrinking our economies. Last year, Pakistan saw devastating floods. It cost them $40 billion in damages. In 2021, floods in India caused losses of $3 billion. The US is increasingly spending over $1 billion on weather disasters. Back in 1980, the average time between billion-dollar disasters was 82 days. But last year, it was just 18 days. The US saw 22 such billion-dollar disasters. Climate change is unleashing catastrophes. Experts say in the near future, today's disasters will seem mild. And it's clear that this will have ripple effects on our economies. So brace for more turbulence.